baby locking son of a bitch is at it again! If you've seen my introduction to Neo on video, you know that Dark Feraligatr completely dominated the 2002 World Championships. Players had become far too reliant on baby Pokemon to get their fast, consistent setup, and Dark Feraligatr just shat all over them for it. Dark Feraligatr could make those baby Pokemon useless, as they couldn't use any of their powers and they couldn't attack, and Crushing Blow could deal 50 damage for 3 energy, and also has a chance to discard an energy card off of your opponent's Pokemon, which was pretty unique for this format, as well as there is no energy removal. There's not a lot of Pokemon that are discarding energy, so decks weren't as prepared for it as they used to be. In the early days of Neo on, there weren't any big grass types that could really counter or even really threaten any of the Feraligatrs. Dark Feraligatr in particular was frequently paired with Genesis Noctowl. That way you could lock babies, and you also had a way to potentially lock trainers, and this is where the Knocklock archetype came from. But I already did a video on Knocklock, and if you're adapting from Rocket On for Neo On, there's not a whole lot of changes to be made. So for this specific deck, I've chosen another suitable partner for Dark Feraligatr. For if you want to mix it up, if you want to spice up your Dark Feraligatr deck and make it a little different than your typical Knocklock, then this is for you. Let's get into it. Starting with a full playset of that 50 HP Totodile from Neo Genesis. Like always, I always go for the one that has the most HP for a pre-evolution card. If one of its main purposes in the deck is just to evolve, then always go for the higher HP one. That's just the rule that I follow. But if there's another Totodile that you like, maybe for an early game attacker, go ahead and use that one. It doesn't matter all that much. It's more of just another safety precaution. Neo On doesn't really have any donk decks or decks that are so fast that you really have to worry about your Totodiles that early in the game. The only deck I can think of offhand that would have that kind of threat early game is maybe Crobat with the triggered poison. Much like with the Riptide Feraligatr setup, I'm going for a full playset of Dark Croconaw in this deck as well. That way you can attack with Totodile for 1 energy, attack with Dark Croconaw for 2 energy, and then on turn 3, when you attach your 3rd energy, you'll be fully set up for Dark Feraligatr and those continuous crushing blows. Now 50 damage isn't going to threaten a lot of cards. It's not really going to be an OHKO on anything. It may not even be a 2-hit KO on anything. The real threat to your opponent is if you're flipping heads on those crushing blows, because 50 damage plus discarding an energy is a huge problem, and it's really difficult to deal with in Neo On. As you'll see in the thumbnail, I have chosen Dark Octillery to be a partner to Dark Feraligatr. One of the reasons is because Ink Blast only needs 1 water energy on it. So in between turns, like if a Dark Feraligatr gets knocked out and you need time to set up another one, then you can move in a Dark Octillery, start attacking, deal some pretty good chip damage for only 1 energy. And like I said, Crushing Blow isn't really going to be OHKOing any Pokemon, but it could get close to knocking them out. And for that, Dark Octillery can come in, deal that little bit of chip damage, and get those revenge knockouts. It can potentially deal a little bit heftier damage and maybe even get some paralysis on your opponent if you need to use it as a backup attacker. If you're up against a big grass deck that is going to be able to one-hit your Dark Feraligatrs, you can potentially use Dark Octillery as a backup since it's weak to electric instead of grass. No Cleffa in this deck and only 6 basics, so you may have to mulligan a few times, but to make up for that, there is a ton of draw power in this deck right from the get-go. So full playset of Professor Elm, a couple of Copycat, and a full playset of Bill's Teleporter. Bill's Teleporter is up for debate. You could just run regular Bill from Legendary Collection if you want, but the Cleffa isn't needed because the Boss's Way provides enough setup to where you have the draw power to get at least 1 Boss's Way, and that's going to allow you to get the Dark Croconaws, Dark Feraligatrs, Dark Octilleries, so you don't need more support Pokemon when you have such powerful trainers to get you exactly what you need. So because Dark Octillery shares that dark nature with Dark Feraligatr, you're able to search out both of them with Boss's Way. It gets a little bit more usability than you would have by using Noctowl. Double Gust is going to let you selectively deal 50 damage to whichever Pokemon you want to stack that damage on, or if there's a Pokemon that you want to try and get an energy off of before it can get fully set up, along with that 50 damage, Double Gust is going to allow you to kind of pick and choose how you want to do that, as well as alternate between your Dark Octillery and your Dark Feraligatr, since their retreat costs are not great. And as Dark Pokemon, they do have lowered HP in exchange for some better attack power. So you'll want to be slapping down some Gold Berries onto those Dark Feraligatrs. That way they can get off multiple rounds of attacks once you get those 3 Water Energy on there. And try to compensate a little for that lowered HP to make sure that your 3 Water Energy on there aren't wasted. Now, if a Dark Feraligatr does get knocked out, Fisherman's going to be important to use it in order to get those Water Energy back. Fisherman is a beefed up version of energy retrieval and is going to be really helpful in recycling those Water Energy. In the same vein, Town Volunteers is going to be important for getting not only those basic energy cards back, but also the Pokemon cards that you need. You don't want to run out of your evolution cards when you're in a tight spot. If you take some early game losses, you want to be able to recoup those losses by beefing up your benched Pokemon and getting them ready to completely fulfill the strategy of the deck. Now, going back to Goldberry, Rocket's Hideout is going to be a huge help to these Dark Pokemon. And like I said, including Dark Octillery, it's going to be able to benefit from Rocket's Hideout as well. It's not just in there for the Feraligatr anymore. Playing with a Stage 2 Pokemon that has 100 HP is much more manageable than 80. And for a Stage 1, Dark Octillery is going to get beefed up to 80 HP. The rest of the deck is going to get filled out with 18 Water Energy. Now, this may seem like a lot, especially since Fisherman is in there, which will allow you to recycle a lot of those energy. But I just found myself getting energy screwed with this deck a lot. I wouldn't run less than 15 for this build, which gives you a little bit of room. You can take out 2 or 3 energy and replace them with some other support trainers you want, or if you do want to add in some baby Pokemon, or some other alternative cards that we'll get to in a bit. As it stands, this is a pretty simple, straightforward build where turn 1, you're just going to be laying down a Totodile or a Remoraid, attaching an energy, attacking if you can, and then from there you'll just be attaching your energy per turn and attacking with whatever Pokemon you have to get off the biggest attack. Very early game you'll be relying on draw power, and late game you've got Fishermen and Town Volunteers to make sure that you don't deck out before your opponent. Now, because this is an adapted deck, the question is, does Dark Octillery do anything more for the deck that would make it better than the Knocklock archetype? And as far as I'm concerned, the 2 builds are about even. Noctowl is much more disruptive and can help control the flow of the match by manipulating your opponent's hand, getting troublesome trainers back into their deck so they can't use them next turn. But the problem with Knocklock, very similar to the Riptide Feraligatr deck, is that if your first Feraligatr gets knocked out very quickly, it's very hard to bounce back from that with Knocklock. Because, yeah, I guess Noctowl is a backup attacker as it can utilize those Water Energy to use Wing Attack, but then you're wasting 3 energy on just 30 damage, and it's really not worth it. As with Dark Octillery, that thing's ready to go after 1 energy to where you can at least deal some chip damage and potentially even stall out your opponent if you're using Tentacle Wrap. So while Dark Octillery can't be as proactive in helping you win matches as a Noctowl would, it covers a major weakness in a Dark Feraligatr build, which is consistency after the first Feraligatr's knocked out, but also with Grass type weakness. When you're talking Dark Feraligatr, you're talking about a deck that was very dominant at the World Championships, and so after the World Championships, players are looking out for it. They're ready with techs against Dark Feraligatr. They've got some grass types that might be able to go after Totodiles. Decks are running fewer babies, so you lose that side of the advantage of using Dark Feraligatr. So you need something else. You need another type of attacker that can help cover. For covering this role, I have seen a lot of Dark Feraligatr decks run Legendary Body Suicune, and the usefulness of this card is highly dependent on which Wizards of the Coast ruling you want to stick with. So early in Neon, they ruled that Suicune cannot be affected by Double Gust. But later into the format, they went back on that ruling and decided that for some reason, Suicune actually could be affected by Double Gust. Suicune does have an alternate weakness to Feraligatr and has free retreat, so it can combo in different ways with Double Gust, depending on which ruling you want to go with. For me personally, I don't think that it should be affected by Double Gust, but all in all, it has an attack that costs 3 energy as well, and so I kind of run into the same problem as Dark Feraligatr anyway, so even with whatever ruling you want to go with, I would still prefer to use Dark Octillery. But that's going to do it for the second deck of Gatr Week. Y'all know that you will be getting a third Feraligatr deck soon. If you've got any requests for the Neon format, go ahead and throw those down in the comments. As always, thank you for watching. If you want to find me on social media, I'll put all those links down in the description. Until next video, bye.